Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. Look, I'm not the type to air out my dirty laundry online, but this shit's been eating at me and I need to get it off my chest. You ever think you know someone inside and out? Then they do something so out of character it makes you question everything? Me and Vanessa had what I thought was solid. We met 3 years ago at my buddy's housewarming party. I'm a construction foreman. I run crews building luxury homes and high-end commercial projects. Not glamorous to some, but it pays well, and I'm damn good at what I do. When we first started dating, Vanessa couldn't get enough of my job. She'd run her hands over my calloused palms and smile. God, that's sexy, she'd whisper. You build things with your hands. Real things. You're not like the other guys I've dated. They just stare at spreadsheets all day. She'd introduce me to her girlfriends like I was some kind of novelty. This is Ronald, my builder boyfriend, she'd say, like it gave her some kind of edge. I didn't mind. I liked the way she said it, with pride. And yeah, I renovated her entire bathroom in a weekend, new tile, plumbing, the works. She raved about it on Instagram like I'd given her a palace. For my part, I respected her job. She worked in corporate marketing. I didn't always get what she was saying. Half the time it sounded like gibberish to me. Words like brand alignment or Q4 objectives. But I could tell she worked hard, and I admired that. I made good money. More than her, actually. So I covered most of our expenses, nice dinners, weekend getaways, even helped her chip away at those student loans she hated. We had a rhythm, a system that worked. I thought we had mutual respect. 3 months ago, I proposed. She said yes. She cried. Posted 10 versions of the ring photo on Instagram with captions like, "Can't believe I get to marry my best friend, and he built my dream bathroom and gave me a dream ring." Everything felt perfect. Then came that dinner party. It was one of those pretentious get-togethers with her coworkers and college friends. Everyone trying to outshine each other, who had the best career, the best stories, the most exotic vacation plans. I'd never liked those kinds of events. Too much fake laughter. Too many people waiting for their turn to talk. But Vanessa asked me to come, so I did. Though, looking back, something felt off even before we got there. All that week, Vanessa had been acting weird. She kept bringing up her boss, Grant, talking about how driven he was, how I should think more about my career trajectory. "Have you ever thought about long-term planning, Ronald?" she asked one night while we were brushing our teeth. "Like, maybe getting into management? Or, I don't know, networking more?" I just raised an eyebrow. "You want me to start schmoozing with real estate developers now?" She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I just think you could do more, that's all." Like I was some kind of project she needed to fix. I brushed it off. Figured she was just stressed about work. But then we got to the party. From the minute we walked in, I felt out of place. Everyone was dressed in sleek business casual, tailored pants, muted blazers, watches that probably cost more than my truck. They stood in little circles, sipping wine and talking over each other about market trends and equity packages. Vanessa started acting different the minute we stepped inside. She kept a little distance from me, like I was some +1 she barely knew. Laughed louder at everyone's jokes, even the unfunny ones. And every 5 minutes, like clockwork, she'd name drop her company or her boss. "Oh, Grant says the Q3 rebrand will completely shift the pipeline. Our team just landed another client in fintech, huge win. Marketing's all about positioning, you know?" I just stood there nursing a drink, trying not to roll my eyes. It wasn't the Vanessa I knew. Or maybe it was, and I just hadn't seen it clearly before. At some point, I wandered into the dining area to grab another drink, hoping to kill a few minutes away from the buzzwords. That's when I heard her voice, low but clear, coming from the kitchen. She was talking with Tom, the one hosting the party, and some guy named Eric. I'd seen him earlier, the type who wears loafers without socks and thinks it's a personality. They didn't see me standing just outside the doorway. "So, you guys are engaged now, right?" Eric asked. I paused, expecting to hear Vanessa say something proud, something real. Maybe talk about how I manage teams, or how I'd work my way up. Hell, maybe even mention the multi-million-dollar project I just wrapped downtown. Instead, she laughed. Not her usual laugh. It was tight, almost fake, like she was performing. "Oh, Ronald," she said, and I swear I could hear the eye roll in her voice. "He works construction. You know, hard hat, yelling at guys, digging ditches. That whole thing." Tom giggled like Vanessa had just cracked a joke. "Wait, like he's actually out there? With the workers? In those neon vests?" Tom said, her voice dripping with amusement. Vanessa nodded, twirling her wine glass like she was proud of the punchline. "Yeah, it's very blue-collar. Not exactly executive material." I froze. Still out of sight, drink in hand. My jaw clenched. Eric chuckled. "Must be interesting conversations at dinner." Vanessa let out another dismissive little laugh. "Oh, We don't really talk about his work, she said with a wave of her hand. It's all so basic. Grant says people who do manual labor just don't have the vision to advance, you know? And that was it. I stood there, my body like stone, listening to my fiancée reduce everything I was, everything I'd built, to a punchline. This was the same job she used to call sexy, the one she used to brag about, the hands she used to kiss, the ones covered in calluses from long days building something from nothing. Now they were just part of a joke she used to impress her new friends. I could have called her out right there, could have made a scene, but I didn't. Instead, I walked into the kitchen casually, like I hadn't heard a word. Hey babe, I said, sliding an arm around her waist. What are we talking about? Vanessa stiffened under my touch. Oh, Eric was just asking what you do, she said quickly. I looked Eric dead in the eye and smiled. I run construction teams, currently managing a $21 million commercial development downtown. There was a pause, the kind where everyone's smile freezes just a little too long. That's interesting, Eric said, clearly not meaning it. It's just a job. I shrugged, keeping my voice easy. Pays the bills. We made small talk for another minute or two before they turned their attention to someone else. Vanessa leaned into me and squeezed my arm, hard. You didn't need to brag about the budget, she whispered through clenched teeth. Just answering his question, babe, I said, still smiling, still playing the part. The rest of the night, I watched her from the corner of my eye, how she performed for her friends, like I was some rough draft of a man she hadn't quite finished editing. Like she had to manage me, explain me. The same woman who used to proudly show off photos of the projects I'd built was now practically apologizing for my existence. I drove us home in silence. She didn't even notice. That night, lying beside her in bed, I stared at the ceiling and let the silence wash over me. And I realized our whole relationship might be a lie. She wasn't with me because she respected me or what I did. She was with me because I was reliable, stable, the guy who'd always pay for dinner and fix her sink, the guy she could lean on while she looked for something better. Someone flashier. Someone who wore loafers without socks and said things like scaling up brand narratives. And that's when I started making my plans. Because what Vanessa didn't know, what she never even bothered to ask about, was that my pathetic construction job had caught the attention of one of the biggest luxury developers on the West Coast. They'd been recruiting me for months to come on as their director of construction operations. I hadn't told her yet. I was planning to surprise her. Thought maybe I'd pop the news over dinner or during a weekend trip, something romantic. But after that night, I decided she didn't deserve to know, and she definitely wasn't coming with me when I left. I laid there in the dark beside her, her breathing soft and steady, completely unaware that her mask had slipped. She'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. The next morning, I woke up before her. I lay there for a minute, watching her sleep. Peaceful, relaxed, like someone who had no idea the man lying next to her had seen right through her. See, I'm not the type of dude who explodes when he's pissed. Never have been. My old man taught me early, real power isn't in showing your hand, son. It's in making your move when no one expects it. That's exactly what I planned to do. I slipped out of bed and made coffee, each step quiet and deliberate. My mind ran through every moment of our relationship, every little red flag I'd ignored. All those times Vanessa had jokingly suggested I look into management roles, something away from the dirt and sweat. You'd be good at it, she'd say, flipping through some interior design blog. I mean, at some point, don't you want to get out of the grunt work? All those subtle digs. Like the way she'd mention her college friends buying vacation homes while I was still swinging hammers, as she put it. The way she changed the subject whenever I brought up a project I was proud of, but expected me to sit through hours of her marketing drama. The signs had been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. But what really messed with my head? It wasn't just the disrespect. It was the fact that I had given this woman everything. I paid for most of our expenses. I fixed everything around her place without being asked. I even helped her brother move apartments last summer, drove across town, hauled boxes, assembled furniture, while none of her polished, MBA-having friends could be bothered to lift a damn finger. I'd been there for every crisis, every stress breakdown, every last-minute can-you-pick-me-up call. I showed up, and this is how she saw me. Some blue-collar loser who wasn't executive material. But I didn't confront her, because I knew it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference. How do you demand respect from someone who already sees you as less? So I made a different decision. I was going to become the perfect fiancé. Yeah, you read that right. When Vanessa finally dragged herself out of bed, I was already dressed, standing in the kitchen. Breakfast was ready. Her favorite, scrambled eggs, avocado toast, fruit on the side. The smell of coffee filled the room. Morning, I said, smiling as I kissed her forehead like nothing happened. She mumbled something, still half asleep, and sat down at the counter, scrolling through her phone. She probably thought I was too simple to catch the shade she'd thrown the night before. And I let her think exactly that. You seemed to have fun last night, I said casually, sliding her a mug. She didn't even look up. Yeah, it was all right. Did you like my friends? Sure, I lied. I sipped my coffee, watching her fingers fly over the screen. That Eric guy seems interesting, I said, keeping my tone light. Her eyes flicked up for a second. Oh yeah, she said, voice lifting just a little. He's pretty successful for his age. Just got promoted to senior manager. Vanessa said it like she was talking about royalty. She barely glanced up from her phone as she sipped her coffee. Good for him, I said, keeping my voice neutral, casual, like it didn't mean anything. Maybe I could learn something from guys like that. She practically beamed. Absolutely. That's what I've been saying. If you'd network more with professionals instead of just, construction guys, you might get some better opportunities. I nodded slowly, as if she'd just dropped some profound, life-altering truth. You're probably right. And that's how the next few weeks went. I became the eager student, the blank slate, the humble, blue-collar fiancé ready to be elevated by the gospel of corporate Vanessa and her personal messiah, Grant. Grant says you should read this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Something or Other. Sure thing, babe. I'll pick it up tonight. Grant thinks construction is kind of a dying industry. Wow, that's interesting. Grant says real success comes from leveraging other people's labor, not doing the work yourself. I smiled. Tell me more about Grant's philosophy. All the while, I was making my moves in silence. The developer had been after me for months. They'd first reached out after they saw my work on a complex commercial build in the historic district. I brought it in under budget, on schedule, and that's not something you see a lot when architects change their minds halfway through a project. The offer they made me? Insane. Triple my current salary. Full benefits. Relocation package. Company vehicle. The works. They didn't just want me to build something. They wanted me to build everything. Led their entire West Coast construction division from scratch. Since I got the offer, I'd been stalling them. I need to discuss it with my fiancée first. I told them. Family first, right? But after that dinner party, I didn't need any more time. I'm in. I told the VP of operations over the phone. But I need to handle some personal matters before I make the move. Can we keep this between us for now? They were more than happy to oblige. 3 weeks to tie up loose ends here. Then I was headed to California to start a life that Vanessa wouldn't be part of. Meanwhile, she was getting bolder with the disrespect. The more I played along with her little Ronald improvement project, the more she acted like she could say whatever the hell she wanted. Babe, did you see Eric's new Tesla? She said one night while we were watching TV. That's the kind of car you could drive if you'd just consider moving into project management. Or something. Another night, my friend Melissa's husband just got headhunted by this tech firm. He was just a programmer before, but now? Now he's making real decisions. She looked at me, like she was trying to implant the idea in my head through sheer will. That could be you, if you just apply yourself more. And every time, I just smiled, nodded, let her think she was shaping me into something more presentable. Something her friends wouldn't giggle about over wine and cheese boards. But what really sealed the deal, what made it all crystal clear, was when I overheard her on the phone with Tom. One night, I was supposed to be in the shower. I'd already turned the water on when I realized I'd left my phone on the nightstand. I walked quietly back to the bedroom, towel slung around my waist. That's when I heard her. Vanessa's voice was low, careful. She was on the phone, facing away from the door. She didn't hear me come in. I just don't know if I can do it long term, she said. He's sweet and stable, but there's no ambition there. No real drive to be more than he is. She sighed. Although he's been trying lately. My stomach twisted. I stayed still. Tom must have said something sympathetic on the other end, because Vanessa let out this bitter little laugh. I know, right? And Eric's been texting me. She paused, then added quickly, nothing inappropriate, just work stuff. But I can tell he's interested. He asked if I wanted to grab coffee to go over this marketing proposal. My blood went cold, but my face stayed calm. Still. So that's how it was. I wasn't just an embarrassment to her. I was temporary. A placeholder. Something stable to lean on while she scouted out something better. Something shinier. I didn't say a word. Just turned around, walked quietly back to the bathroom, and got in the shower. And as that hot water hit my back, I started planning exactly how I was going to disappear from her life, so cleanly, so thoroughly, that she'd never recover. Once I made the decision to leave, everything became crystal clear. It was like I'd been walking around with fogged-up safety glasses for years, and someone finally wiped them clean. And what I saw was all the bullshit I'd been missing. The more I watched Vanessa, the more obvious her game became. She wanted the stability I gave her, the reliable income, the handyman live-in boyfriend, the guy who always picked up the check and knew how to reset a breaker. But she also wanted the status that came with someone like Eric. Someone she could flaunt in business circles. Someone with a title. Too bad she couldn't have both. So I got to work. I started my exit strategy with a simple list. Finances. Apartment lease. Shared subscriptions. Future plans. Each one had to be handled quietly. No sudden moves. No red flags. First, I opened a new bank account, different bank altogether. Transferred most of my savings there, leaving just enough in our joint account to keep things looking normal. Then I called payroll. Told them there were weird charges on my old account. I said, laughing to Vanessa later that night as I scrolled my phone. Switched everything over just to be safe. She nodded without looking up. Smart. She had no idea. Next, I called our landlord. Hey, I might be taking a job out of state, I told him. Not sure yet. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We might not be renewing the lease. It was up in 6 weeks. Perfect timing. He was understanding. If something changes, let me know. We can work something out if you need to leave early. I asked him to keep it between us, said I was still sorting things out with Vanessa. He agreed. Meanwhile, the new company was sending over contracts, relocation paperwork, onboarding materials. I gave them my buddy Noah's address for anything physical. Used a personal email Vanessa didn't have access to. Took their calls on my lunch breaks at the job site. The offer was even better than I remembered. Performance bonuses. Housing allowance for the first 3 months while I got set up in San Diego. And best of all, complete authority to build their construction division from scratch, my way. This wasn't just an escape plan anymore. It was an upgrade. About 4 weeks after the dinner party, Vanessa wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Suddenly, she needed to work late at least twice a week. Her phone would ding, and she'd glance at it quickly, smiling to herself like a teenager with a crush. One night, I happened to glance over while she was texting on the couch. There it was. Eric's name lit up at the top of her screen. I didn't say a word, just filed it away with everything else. That weekend, Vanessa brought it up casually over coffee. Hey, we should have dinner with some of my work friends, she said, flipping through her planner like it was just another note to tick off. Eric and Tom will be there. Maybe a few others. She sipped her coffee, watching me. It'll be good for you to network. I looked up and smiled. Sure. Sounds great. She looked surprised, then pleased. Maybe I can learn something from Eric. I added, about corporate advancement. Her face lit up like I'd just handed her a diamond ring. She probably thought her little project was finally paying off. That I was starting to buy into the version of me she had in her head, the polished, upwardly mobile version she could show off. If only she knew. The dinner was at some overpriced bistro downtown. One of those places with tiny portions and overused words like infused and reduction on the menu. I played my part to perfection. I asked Eric questions about his career, nodded thoughtfully at his advice, even pulled out my phone and jotted down a few notes, like I was soaking up his corporate gospel. The key is to always be thinking about the next step up, Eric said, swirling his wine like he was delivering a TED Talk. Construction guys usually hit a ceiling because they're too focused on the work instead of the ladder. I nodded seriously. That makes sense. I've probably been too hands-on, too focused on the day-to-day. Vanessa beamed at me from across the table, proud and glowing like I was her personal makeover success story. Meanwhile, Tom kept sneaking me these pitying glances, like she felt sorry for the poor blue-collar guy struggling to keep up with the big brains at the table. The whole time, I was just thinking, not one of you would last a day on a real job site. You wouldn't last an hour handling safety violations, equipment delays, subcontractor drama, and budget blowouts all at once. You'd fold the first time concrete didn't set right, or a client changed the design halfway through a build. But I smiled and played dumb. Let them all believe I was some Neanderthal finally seeing the light of their sleek little world. Because in 3 weeks, I'd be gone. And Vanessa? She'd finally realize exactly what she'd thrown away. As we were leaving, I watched Eric pull Vanessa aside near the entrance. Just a quick work question, she said over her shoulder. I nodded, like I hadn't noticed how their conversation looked a little too familiar. How his hand lingered on her arm just a second too long. Like they weren't smiling just about project timelines. But none of it meant anything to me anymore. Not really. I was already checked out. In the car on the way home, Vanessa was glowing. Eric was really impressed with you tonight, she said, her voice buzzing with excitement. He thinks you've got potential. Yeah. I kept my eyes on the road, my hands steady on the wheel. He said he could totally see you transitioning into a corporate role, with the right guidance, of course. That's nice of him. She nodded, then turned toward me. Maybe we could have him over sometime. Just the 3 of us. He could give you more specific career advice. I almost laughed out loud. Almost. Was she really trying to bring her backup option into our home? But I kept my tone calm. Sure, if you think it would help. That night, I finalized everything with my new employer. Start date, confirmed. Relocation assistance, arranged. Temporary housing in San Diego, secured. Everything was locked in. As I lay next to her in bed, watching her scroll through Instagram with that same shallow smile, I felt nothing. Just cold clarity. She was completely oblivious to what was coming. I felt a strange mix of anger and pity whenever I looked at her. She really thought she had it all figured out. Keep me as the stable fallback while she flirted with possibilities on the side. Feed me half-hearted compliments. Throw in some buzzwords about career growth. All while looking down on the very life I'd built from the ground up. The last 2 weeks living with Vanessa felt like being in some twisted sitcom, except I was the only one in on the joke. She had no idea she was just a few scenes away from the finale. With just days left before my great escape, I kicked things into high gear. First order of business, clean out our shared subscriptions. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, HBO Max. A few more I'd forgotten I was even paying for. I didn't cancel them outright. That would have raised suspicion. No, I just changed the payment methods to a card that was conveniently expiring the day after I left. Simple, subtle, effective. Next, I started extracting myself, physically. Vanessa wasn't the most observant person. She once went 2 whole days without noticing I'd shaved my beard. But still, I didn't take chances. I started small. The things she never paid attention to, my tools, a few pairs of jeans, my work boots, important documents, family heirlooms. Each morning, I'd pack a duffel bag and toss it in the back of my truck, swinging by my buddy Noah's place after work. Doing some spring cleaning. Noah asked one afternoon as I unloaded another box into his garage. Nah, I smirked. Just preparing for the greatest vanishing act since Houdini. Minus the water tank. Noah raised an eyebrow. Damn, man. You sure about this? He thought I was being cold. But Noah hadn't heard his fiancée mock his entire existence in a kitchen full of corporate phonies. He hadn't watched her beam over texts from some clown in chinos. Speaking of which, Eric had become a recurring guest star in the tragic comedy of my life. He was Vanessa's new personal guru, apparently. Eric says you should really consider getting some certifications, Vanessa announced one night over dinner. She didn't even look up from her phone. Says it would make you more marketable. You know, if you ever wanted to leave the physical labor behind. I wanted to laugh. Wow, Eric says that, huh? The same Eric who probably thinks a torque wrench is a cocktail? But I kept it cool. That's a good idea, I said, nodding thoughtfully. I'll look into it. She beamed, like she'd just taught a dog how to sit. Good boy, Ronald. You're almost housebroken. But the real eye-opener came a few evenings later. I had to park on the street because one of our neighbors thought their rusted-out project car deserved the covered spot more than my truck. I grabbed my gym bag from the back seat and started walking toward the apartment. As I passed by our building, I caught sight of our bedroom window, open just a crack. That's when I heard her. Vanessa was on a video call. I could see her, sitting on the edge of the bed, phone propped up on a stack of pillows. Laughter floated out through the window, light and careless. She was talking to Tom and a couple other friends from her office. I didn't mean to listen in. But when you hear your own name through an open window, it's kind of hard not to. And you should see how he's starting to dress differently, Vanessa was saying, her voice bright, proud, even. Like she was discussing a lab rat that had finally figured out the maze. I think he's finally understanding that construction is just a stepping stone. He's even reading those career books I got him. I could hear the girls on the call all chime in with those exaggerated ahs. This is like that show where they make over those clueless guys. One of them squealed. Vanessa laughed. Basically. But seriously, Eric's suggestions have been super helpful. He really gets what Ronald needs to do to move up in the world. Move up? Then another voice joined in. One of her fake work friends, the kind that smelled like lavender and condescension. I couldn't remember her name. Okay, but speaking of Eric, what's going on there? He's clearly into you. Stop it, Vanessa protested, and I could picture her doing that little fake shy head tilt. It's not like that. But her voice had that sing-song tone. The kind that screamed, please keep asking. He's just being professional. And helpful. Professional, girl? He offered to take you to that leadership conference in his place. The woman shot back. That's a 3-day trip. To Phoenix. Vanessa laughed again. Whatever. Right now, I'm focused on helping Ronald see his potential. It's like a project, you know? Taking this rough material and turning it into something presentable. I stood there, frozen, gym bag slung over my shoulder, streetlight casting long shadows behind me. As I listened to my fiancée talk about me like I was some rundown fixer-upper, she picked up off the clearance rack, helping me see my potential. That's rich, coming from someone whose biggest career flex was reorganizing the company's shared Google Drive and then walking around like she'd hacked the Pentagon. I turned and walked away before they could spot me. And you know what? I wasn't even angry anymore. There was a strange, almost peaceful calm that came over me. Nothing like hearing yourself described as a side project to confirm that walking away is the right damn call. With 1 week left before my departure, I decided to have a little fun. Just subtle hints here and there, breadcrumbs. Nothing that would tip her off yet. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching one of those insufferable dating shows she loved, I leaned back and said, casually, I've been thinking a lot about the future lately. She perked up instantly, like a dog hearing a treat bag rustle. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think big changes are coming. The kind you can't even imagine. She beamed. That's great, babe. I knew you'd start seeing things differently if you just kept an open mind. If only she knew. The only thing I was seeing differently was her. Us. My entire damn life trajectory. Then, 3 days before I was set to leave, she dropped her own little bomb. So, I was thinking we should have dinner with my parents next weekend, she said, half distracted, scrolling through her phone. Dad's been asking about wedding plans, and I thought maybe we could start discussing dates. The irony nearly made me choke on my coffee. She was planning our wedding, while laying the groundwork with Eric on the side. And she had no idea that by next weekend, I'd be unpacking boxes in a new apartment. In San Diego. Sure, I said, managing to keep a straight face. Whatever you think is best. And then, the night before my departure, I took her out to dinner. One last hurrah. At her favorite overpriced restaurant. The kind of place where the portions are tiny, and the waiters act like they're doing you a favor by taking your order. I played the part. The perfect fiancé. Attentive. Charming. Even romantic. I raised my glass. To us, and to the future. She clinked her glass against mine, smiling like she'd just won a prize. She ate it all up, every word, every fake smile, like it was one of those microscopic desserts this place specialized in. One bite, $60, and half a dozen filtered photos later. What's gotten into you? She asked, eyes gleaming, her phone already hovering over her truffle risotto for a boomerang. I smiled, just feeling grateful. Not a total lie. I was grateful. Grateful that this was the last time I'd ever have to sit through one of these showy dinners. The last time I'd watch her take 14 photos of her meal for Instagram before actually eating it. The last time I'd fake a smile while pretending to care about a sommelier's lecture on oak barrels. The next morning, I woke up early and left for work like it was any other day. Only difference was, my truck was packed with the last of my belongings. My resignation letter was folded neatly in my jacket pocket, and my one-way ticket to San Diego was already loaded on my phone. I took one last look at our apartment building in the rearview mirror. Nothing. No sadness. No second thoughts. Just the calm satisfaction of finally taking control of my own damn life. Vanessa would wake up in about an hour, completely unaware that she'd just spent her last night with me. She'd go about her day, probably text Eric, maybe make lunch plans with Tom, and assume I'd be coming home that evening. Like always. I'd been gone for exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes when my phone started blowing up. I was sitting in an airport lounge, sipping a fresh Americano, soaking in the peace, when it started. Ronald, where are you? The landlord just called about the lease. Please call me. This isn't funny. Then the calls started, one after another. I silenced my phone and took another slow sip. Each buzz, each frantic ping was like a victory bell. Confirmation that my plan was working exactly as intended. I wasn't about to interrupt that beautiful unraveling by picking up. So I didn't. I put my phone on airplane mode and sat back, eyes closed, breathing deep. The past? That was behind me now. And Vanessa? She was officially part of it. When I landed after the first leg of my flight and turned my phone back on during the layover, the digital avalanche hit full force. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages, for voicemails. And now, a new player had entered the stage. Vanessa's mom, Lena. Great. The cavalry. I didn't need to open the voicemails to know what they said, but I played one anyway, out of sheer curiosity. Ronald, this is Lena. Vanessa is absolutely beside herself. We don't understand what's happening. Please call us back immediately. This isn't like you. Delete. I texted Noah, made it to my first stop. How's it looking on your end? His reply came almost immediately. Bro, complete chaos here. V's already been by my place crying. Her mom's calling everyone we know. V's dad threatened to come find you and set you straight until I pointed out that adults can leave relationships if they want to. I laughed. Of course her father had something to say. He'd always treated me with this thin layer of contempt, barely concealed. My daughter deserves someone who wears a suit to work. He'd said it loud enough at that family dinner for everyone at the table to hear, but just quiet enough to act like he hadn't meant for me to. Typical. The irony of him suddenly wanting to track me down wasn't lost on me. I shot Noah a text. Anyone else been dragged into this yet? His reply came fast. Everyone, man. She's on a full-scale manhunt. Called your boss, your coworkers, even that guy Diego you work with. Diego? I texted back, blinking. Diego was a solid guy, but a bit of a loudmouth. Yeah, Diego told her you'd taken a job somewhere else, and she completely lost it. So much for my clean exit. Vanessa wasn't just reacting. She was putting on a Broadway-level production. Drama of the century. On day 2 of my new life, Noah sent me a screenshot from Facebook. Vanessa had posted a long, teary-eyed rant. If anyone has seen Ronald, please reach out. This isn't like him. I'm really worried. He left without a word, and so on. She was going full concerned fiancé. Noah's comment under the screenshot summed it up. She's playing the card hard. I knew what this was really about. The financial reality was setting in. That's what she really missed. The stability, the rent, the dinners, the future she thought she could upgrade while keeping me in the background. Good. Let her feel what it's like to have the rug yanked out from under her for once. Noah kept the updates coming over the next couple days, each one better than the last. We tried to get into your email, looking for clues. Couldn't remember the password. Called me asking if I knew it, like I'd tell her even if I did. I laughed. The Netflix, Hulu, Spotify purge hit today. She posted this dramatic rant about how some people are so petty they'd cut off streaming during a crisis. Right. Petty. As if she hadn't used those services without paying for a single one. Then, she told her friends you took the engagement ring with you. Funny, since I remember you saying you left it on the dresser. I did. She saw me place it there. Which means one of two things. Either she lied, or she pawned it all ready to float rent. Either way, predictable. Each message was another domino falling in Vanessa's perfectly arranged life. The structure was collapsing, and all I had to do was watch from a distance. But after 3 full days of ignoring her barrage of calls and texts, I finally decided to pick up one. Just one. She deserved to hear it straight from me, at least once. My phone lit up with her name for what felt like the 100th time. I let it ring a few more seconds, then answered. Ronald? Ronald, oh my God, where are you? What's going on? Her voice was frantic, breathless. The landlord said, I heard you. I said, cutting her off. Calm. Steady. She stopped. What? I heard you at the dinner party, Vanessa. Silence. I heard what you really think about my job. About me. There was a beat. Then a soft, panicked voice. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. I said evenly. He just yells at guys digging ditches all day. That's what you told your friends, right? That I'm not executive material. That Grant says people like me don't have the vision to advance. Another silence. Longer this time. Ronald, I was just joking around. You know I respect what you do. I let out a low chuckle. Not the kind that comes from amusement. More like the kind that escapes when you realize just how far someone's missed the point. Respect. I repeated. Nah. You wouldn't know respect if it slapped you in the face. But it's cool. Because guess what? I leaned back in my airport lounge chair, watching the plane's taxi across the runway. I just got offered something real nice. The kind of opportunity people like you and your precious Eric could only dream of. What do you mean? She asked, her voice tight. Let's just say, I said, letting each word hang in the air. My new view includes a penthouse office overlooking the ocean, a custom ride with my name on the lease, and more money than you and your little corporate buddies could ever throw at a dinner bill. Silence. They chased me for months, Vanessa, because when you're actually good at what you do, you don't need to pretend to be something you're not. I paused, let it sink in, then added, but you wouldn't understand that, would you? I heard her gasp. You what? Ronald, why didn't you tell me? We could have what? I snapped, my tone still calm, but edged with steel. You could have suddenly decided my career was worthy of your respect, that I wasn't just some project for you to fix. I shook my head, though she couldn't see me. That's not how respect works. Vanessa, please, she said, her voice cracking now. Just tell me where you are. We can talk about this. Please. There's nothing to talk about, I said flatly. You showed me who you really are. And I believe you. I could hear her breathing fast, panicked. Oh, and you might want to start looking for a new place. Lease is up next week. A pause. One final moment. Goodbye, Vanessa. I hung up, blocked her number. And just like that, it was done. It felt like closing the final chapter of a book I'd been forcing myself to read for too long. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. A few days later, Noah texted me again. Dude, visa complete wreck. After you called her, she showed up at my place again. Crying so hard I could barely understand her. Something about you getting some big promotion. Said you were punishing her for a stupid comment. I rolled my eyes. A stupid comment, sure, if you count sustained, condescending disrespect and emotional manipulation as just joking around. Noah followed up. Also, get this, Eric won't even look at her at work now. Heard from a buddy that he straight up ignored her in a meeting when she tried to talk to him. Then the kicker. He posted pics from some club with another girl from their office. Brutal timing. I couldn't help but smirk. She'd been hedging her bets. I was the safe option, stable, dependable. Eric was the shiny, exciting maybe. Now, she had neither. But then, Vanessa's dad called. That one surprised me. I let it go to voicemail. Figured it'd be more of the same. condescension, and lectures. But when I played it back, I paused. Ronald, look. Vanessa told us what happened. About that dinner. What she said about your work. I need to admit something. I might have contributed to how she saw things. I've always pushed her to find someone in a suit and tie, like me. That was wrong. His voice wavered. Not something I expected from a man who once told me I wasn't husband material. She's a mess, son. Had to move back home because she can't afford the apartment. A breath. Can't you two at least talk? Too little, too late, Bob. Maybe if you'd shown some respect for my line of work earlier, things might have been different. I didn't respond to the voicemail. Just let it sit there, unheard and unanswered, like every time they'd sat silently while Vanessa chipped away at my pride. But yeah, I did check social media. Once. Just to see how things were playing out. Vanessa's status had changed from taken to nothing. No cheesy couple selfies. No brunch boomerangs. Her usual stream of filtered perfection? Dead silent. According to Noah, the real-world scene was even messier. Her parents showed up with a U-Haul yesterday, he texted, moving all her stuff out. None of her friends helped. Not even Tom. I grinned. Of course not. When the mask slipped and the world saw the real Vanessa, condescending, performative, transactional, those friends vanished like steam off asphalt. Speaking of snakes, Tom had the audacity to message me. Tom, hey, do you and I still hang out? Just saying, always thought you could do better than Vanessa. I didn't reply, just stared at the message for a second, then burst out laughing. These people were something else. Fair-weather friendships. Cloud-chasing connections. As fake as the marketing lingo they spouted over cocktails. Every update from Noah became my favorite part of the day. A week later, he sent the one that sealed the whole thing. Noah ran into V's sister at the store. Apparently V got taken off that big marketing project, too emotional lately. Had to watch Eric give the presentation she worked on for months. She's trying to transfer to another branch now, basically trying to disappear from her own life. I read that message twice. The irony wasn't lost on me. The social facade Vanessa spent years constructing collapsed. The fancy friends she tried to impress ghosted. The backup plan she'd been cultivating, Eric, he moved on without a second glance. And the financial safety net she thought was hers for the long haul, gone. Everything she valued more than our relationship, gone in one clean sweep. Through it all, I rebuilt everything. My new office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. My name on the door, Director of Construction Operations. 15 project managers reporting to me. Sites stretching from Santa Barbara to San Diego. Not bad for a guy who just yells at ditch diggers. But what surprised me most wasn't the title or the perks. It was the feeling. No bitterness. No second-guessing. No need to justify myself anymore. Just freedom. Noah flew out to visit after a couple of months. We were out on my balcony, grilling ribeyes, ocean breeze cutting the heat. You sure you don't want to know what's going on with Vanessa? He asked, flipping his steak. I shook my head. That chapter's closed. He smirked. Well, she's still with her parents. Started seeing some financial advisor her dad introduced her to. I took a sip of my beer and looked out at the ocean. I was surprised by how little I cared. It was like hearing about a stranger. Was my exit cold? Maybe. Heartless? Some would say so. But I call it self-respect. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't making a scene. It's not screaming, or slamming doors, or exposing someone. Sometimes, the best revenge is looking someone in the eye, or in this case, over the phone, and telling them exactly what they lost. Vanessa had told her friends I had no ambition, that I'd never be more than a construction worker. She compared me to Eric and Grant, and found me lacking. She treated me like a project to be fixed rather than a partner to be respected. Well, she got exactly what she wanted, a fiancé with ambition. I just took that ambition and directed it where it truly belonged, toward building a better life for myself, without her. And all it took was walking away. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.